Hey guys, good morning. So it is about 28 degrees here in Pennsylvania. It's the nicest day that we're going to have in a while. So probably if you're like anywhere in the United States, you're going to be affected by this. There's this Arctic blast of air coming in next week. And when I look, it's like, highs of 15 degrees and it's going to be pretty brutal. So I just decided that I want to get out here today for a little hike. It actually feels pretty good with the sun shining. So let's go for a little hike. And today I want to talk about trail etiquette. So let's talk about the do's and don'ts on the trail. Let's talk about what bugs you when you're hiking. So stay tuned for that. It is just very, very cold today in Pennsylvania, and it's only going to get worse. But one thing that's really been helping me get outside lately is I just look at the forecast for the week and I kind of plan. I look, what's the nicest day? And then I kind of set that aside and say, all right, that's going to be my day to get out. Now, some weeks you're not even going to have one nice day and you're really going to have to dig deep and get that motivation and push yourself. But in most cases, you may have that one nice sunny day, and try to plan your week around that to make sure you can get out. So when you're hiking, one of the most unspoken rules is no music on the trail. Don't blast your music while you're hiking. Don't blast it from your speaker. And then also on the flip side, if you're using earbuds, you've got to remember that you have to keep your earbuds at a level where you can hear people coming up behind you. You can hear people talking to you from just a safety perspective. I see a lot of people using earbuds, which is great because it keeps the music to themselves. But then you come up behind them, you try to warn them, and you end up startling them because they have the music so loud they can't hear. So I think that's definitely a piece of trail etiquette that we all need to keep in mind. So this is one that I learned a couple years ago. Did you know that when you're hiking, you need to yield to horses? So if there's horseback riding going on, if it's a multi-use trail, you want to make sure that when you see the horse, you stop, you step off, and you listen for instructions from the rider about what to do, because the horses can really scare easily and you need to yield to them. So let's say you're coming down the hill and another hiker is coming up the hill. Who should yield? It should actually be you. The person that's going downhill should always stop and yield to the person coming uphill. And this is a problem that I kind of see out on the trail a lot when trails are crowded, that people just don't know this, and it's very polite to just let the person who's working hardest coming up the hill, you just stop where you're at if you're coming down and let the person coming up the hill pass. So another situation I see when I'm out hiking a lot is when you're in a situation when there's switchbacks. Switchbacks are the little parts that help you get up a trail in a less steep way. They're often on many, many trails, but from time to time you see this. You'll see people are cutting the switchbacks to just go directly up. And this is really bad for trail maintenance, for safety. There's a reason those switchbacks are there. Use them. Yes, you have to go a little bit longer, but they do not want you to erode the trail and do take that shortcut. But I do see it a lot. You can just see the pathway worn by people just looking for that shortcut. So don't take the shortcut. So some of these, hiking etiquette rules are pretty self-explanatory. Don't feed the wildlife. Although, even though these things are self-explanatory, I go so many places where you see signs warning you to not feed the wildlife. So someone must be breaking the rules. And then obviously another good one is to make sure that you always stay on the trail. If you have to step off the trail, try to find a place where you're not going to trample sensitive plants and animals and things like that. But the trails are there for a reason. So I know a lot of my viewers have had problems with this. You go on a hike, you bring your dog with you, or you're just hiking without a dog and an unleashed dog comes up to you. And so many times people are just ignoring the rules of the park. So many parks require you to keep your dog on a leash, and people just violate that. And they'll say like, oh, my dog's friendly. Yeah, and maybe your dog is, but one of my viewers pointed this out recently. They said that they keep their dog on a leash, even though their dog's friendly, for their dog's own safety. Because how do you make sure that your dog isn't going to run into another dog that maybe isn't as friendly, or maybe wildlife that isn't as friendly? So, the rules are there for a reason. Follow them. Keep your dog on a leash if that's what the park rules require. So I've spent a lot of years hiking with my kids when they were younger, and one of the things that would really stress me out is when you would feel somebody coming up behind you, or you hear someone coming up behind you, and they just keep getting aggressively closer and closer without kind of like saying hello or saying like, could I pass, or things like that. And it creates kind of like a tense situation. We are always willing to step off and let people pass, especially when our kids were younger. We would try to be mindful of it. But it's just kind of like creepy. Like just say to somebody, hello, passing on your left. Let somebody know that you want to pass, and most people will gladly step aside and let you go. But to just kind of creep up, especially in people with little kids, is just kind of aggressive. All right, so some of these super, super common. You're gonna know not to do this. Don't throw your trash, right? hiking etiquette: pack it in, pack it out. I think people get tricked when they think that, oh, well, this is an apple core or this is orange peel, it's gonna break down. But if everybody threw those things, the trail would be a mess. It would be bad for wildlife. You really have to pack everything out that you bring in. I like to just make sure I have Ziploc bags or plastic grocery bags in my pack. So like if the kids are eating something messy, or I have something messy like a fruit peel or things like that, you just throw it in your bag, and definitely don't throw those on the trail. Not a good idea. All right, so I want to show you something really quickly. So my GoPro battery is about to die. I'm gonna have to change it up here, but this is by the brand's called Fuzi. And this is the same material that NASA spacesuits are made out of. And they sent me this to try. It is really cool. So this size is actually for your cell phone, and it keeps your cell phone battery from dying. It works in the extreme heat, and it also works in the extreme cold. And I really like it for my cell phone, but recently my GoPro batteries have been dying like crazy. So I've been putting my GoPro batteries in this, and it's been helping them last a little bit longer. So my current battery in the camera is about to die, so I'm gonna change out with a new battery from here. But it's just a nice way to keep your batteries lasting longer, because if you're a content creator and you're out in the cold, you know how fast these things go in the wintertime. It's crazy. This is one that often gets overlooked, and it's to make sure that you're checking the trail conditions properly. You don't want to go out and hike after, you know, major flash floods when the trails are just all muddy. You're going to destroy the trail walking through there. So just kind of always be mindful of trail conditions. When it's super muddy, like when we've had really heavy rains, hurricanes, things like that, I tend to opt for a paved trail, even though that's not my favorite, but I know that I'm not going to chew up the trail by going when conditions are really, really muddy. So that's another piece of etiquette to keep in mind. So another piece of etiquette is if you have to use the bathroom while you're out hiking, you want to make sure that you're going 200 feet off the trail. You want to make sure that you're going away from water sources. I'm mostly a day hiker, so I usually avoid situations like this if possible, but you know, it happens. Sometimes you have to go. You just want to make sure you're following those rules and etiquette to make sure you're going off the trail. All right, so here's one that might be kind of a hot take. I kind of think when you're hiking, a good piece of etiquette is to leave your opinions to yourself. So what I mean by this is, you know, a lot of times we'll be hiking and, oh, just a little bit further. And yes, sometimes that's inspiring and helpful. And then other times it's kind of like, really? Like, don't you think I'm capable of this? That I can go a little bit more? We've also had situations where I believe our daughter was like 3. We took her on her hike at Ricketts Glen, her first time hiking there, and she did awesome, because my kids have just been hiking since they were young. She did a great job. She didn't need to be carried. And so many people stopped us on the trail and said like snarky things like, she's never going to remember this, and you took a 3-year-old on this trail. And it's kind of like, I don't know, people are out there, they're enjoying themselves, they're happy. Don't burst somebody's bubble. Don't rain on somebody's parade. Keep your opinion to yourself. The same thing for me. You know, we were just hiking in Texas and we saw somebody pass us in flip-flops on a trail where you should not be wearing flip-flops. And like, that's crazy. But I wouldn't stop and say to somebody like, hey, you shouldn't wear flip-flops on this trail. I'm not a park ranger. That's not my place to say. So I just think kind of keep your opinion to yourself if you can. Keep it to, you know, hi, beautiful day, things like that, right? Keep it short and sweet. So this is another good little reminder. Let's say you're going down the trail, there's a huge puddle. You don't want to step off the trail and go off trail just to avoid the puddle. Like, make sure you have on proper footwear. Walk through the puddle, it won't kill you, but you might crush some sensitive plants or do damage to the trail going around it. Let's keep the conversation going around hiking etiquette. Let me know if I missed anything, if there's anything that you kind of disagree with. Let's comment and talk about this. Thanks guys, have a great day and stay warm.